Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back to the program. It is exactly 8:55 a.m. and our next guest is Dr. Imran Keeka. Imran Keeka. He is the DA KZN spokesperson for education. And we're looking at the issue around the Department of Basic Education advising that the schools plan to reopen on schedule in January 2022. So does that mean it's going to be back to normality? Are the kids going to go back full time? And hopefully, inshallah, we don't have a rise in COVID-19 cases. How is the next year or two going to then pan out? Dr. Imran Keeka, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Sister Julie. I hope you're keeping well, and jazakallah for the opportunity. And greetings and assalamu alaikum to the listeners.
Alhamdulillah, with your du'as, all well. So, can we be comforted in the knowledge that it's going to be a normal school year, given that we don't have a rise in COVID-19 cases?
It's a very difficult question to answer, especially since we have not yet overcome this fourth wave that we are going through. You will know that Omicron is still around, and I've just been following up on the medical blogs. Interestingly, there's been another variant that has been identified in France that is being investigated, and also more interesting, I don't see any of the European countries isolating or quarantining them like we did when South Africa discovered Omicron. But anyway, that's another matter for discussion. So
yes, I have picked up on that as well.
Gee, what I think is that the department calendar that has been planned for the year has been a plan for a normal year. And I think that that's the right thing to do. You know, you can't plan for abnormality, if I may put it that way. So you plan for a normal year, but you see what comes your way and you adapt. And that's what has been happening. We obviously do need to return to some sort of normality where school does resume on the full time. Again, I know the topic is quite a controversial one for many people on some of the radio stations, is when we advocate for vaccination. And you know that vaccination is something that is open from the age group of 12 upwards. And, it is a means of protection for people. And so if vaccines are opted for, we know that there'll be greater levels of safety and greater levels of protection, inshallah, for those that take it in the school-going group. Of course, the younger ones is another story, and as we have seen with Omicron this time around, that it is affecting even the very young children. So whatever Allah Ta'ala sends our way, I think we have to boil it down to this: وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. We plot and plan, and Allah to plots and plans, and Allah's plan is the best. So I think we need to keep that in mind as the Muslim Ummah. But what is important is, I think, that the school calendar should be planned as a normal calendar, and then any deviations that occur must be according to that. But one caveat must exist when the Department of Education plans for a normal year, is that the resources that are necessary for that plan must also be available. So that we know the department is, especially in KwaZulu-Natal, where I am the spokesperson in education, I can confidently tell you that the resources are all not available. So it's going to be a very tumultuous, very rough ride through the year, and especially when the new budget kicks in, where, there will be a further budget cut in the last financial or existing financial year. The budget cut was around 6.2 billion rand. The next budget cut is anticipated to be in the region of 9 billion rand. So whatever difficulties we saw in this year, we're going to see far more in the next financial year. So that is going to be a problem. So I foresee quite a bit not going as it should go in terms of a smooth flowing uh, school year for the learners. So people will be in school, but whether the resources for that will be available is another question.
Okay, now we know that South Africa schools have been impacted by several lockdowns over the past 18 months. The Department of Basic Education has estimated that learners in disadvantaged communities have lost a year's worth of learning. I reckon it's not a year, I reckon it's 2 years or more due to lack of teaching contact time and the rotational learning system. That's the one issue. The other issue is the mental impact on these children.
Well,
How,
I'm not going to
just how far it pushes them back. And now, added to all of that, you're talking about serious budget cuts. It's a very, very worrying situation, is it not?
like I said, you can mitigate against contact time loss. You can mitigate against some of the other issues, but certainly where the resources will not be available to provide textbooks or what we call learner teacher support material, furniture, ensuring that sanitizers are in school and other PPE that is necessary to carry on with a normal schooling year or close to normal as possible, well, then we're seriously going to have a problem. And then on top of that, like I said, the uptake of the vaccine has not been the best for whatever reason. And, all of that is going to continue. In the education sector, interestingly, when it came to the educators, there was a significant uptake of the vaccine. But the same is not there for the younger cohorts. And there has been much debate about that. Some healthcare professionals are of the view that they don't need to take it because even if they do get infected with COVID, the recovery rate is very quick. And I must tell you that in the last year, we noticed during the third surge that in 1 week, there was a spike of around 5,000 cases in our KZN schools. So the numbers in 1 week increased by around just over 5,000 learners and educators in schools. So yes, the possibilities are all there. What you're saying is absolutely correct. The time estimates, well, these are things that we can consider, in terms of time lost. And what will tell us a lot are the upcoming matric results that will be released very soon on the 19th, I'm sure. So that will tell us about it. It's not, of course, the litmus test, but it certainly is. And when we were visiting schools more recently, we were paying attention also to the grades prior to matric. So, matric itself is not the only gauge. We also look at difficulties in other grades. And certainly the abnormal schooling year has shown difficulties in particular subjects and certainly difficulty in, making sure that the curriculum is properly delivered in schools.
So, as we speak, Dr. Keeka, obviously we can't dismiss the fact that there may be a reintroduction of staggered open dates, staggered teaching for schools inland and the coastal areas, well, really nationally, so to speak.
Well, the option is there for everyone. It's just a matter of having a look at whether it will be, more localized when the need arises. So and this has to be the approach to COVID, it now needs to become something that is more individualized to a particular area, a particular province, a particular district if necessary, and it has to adapt. So what is planned is that the school year must be normal. However, if there are outbreaks of COVID in particular areas or districts or provinces or regions of the country, then, the steps need to be taken to make interventions for that area. So it doesn't need to be or something that is blanket. However, the trend, of course, that we have seen is that, certain provinces have spikes and certain provinces are far more affected than others. And so that approach will need to be taken to make sure that, it is then dealt with. However, we need to return, as I've always said, and the Democratic Alliance has always said, to some sort of normality. And of course, one of the things that you would have seen that we made the call for in December was the complete abolishment of the curfew, for example. So some of these things that are in place to manage the COVID surges and COVID in the country, we've maintained from the get-go are quite ridiculous in their nature, the curfew having been one of them. Of course, that didn't affect schooling time or schooling hours. But, we need to look at COVID in this way going forward.
Okay, finally, let's look at the issue. We're talking education, but COVID has become a huge part of our lives. One of the guests on yesterday's show has indicated, and I seem to be in agreement with him, and I think you would agree as well, coming from a medical background yourself, is that COVID has or will, in a very short space of time, become endemic, much like the flu all over the world. And on a regular basis, annually, we'd have to take our flu vaccinations and our COVID vaccinations. That being said, then, how do you view the fact that perhaps younger children should be vaccinated before being taken into the school system? And also, are we going to seeing our children being masked up for going to school? Is that going to be a permanent feature for now in our lives?
For now, it seems to be in place. For now, vaccines are available for school-going children from the age of 12 upwards. We're still waiting to see what the scientists tell us, about the younger age groups. And of course, I think all of that must be dependent on, each individual's choice, whether they want to have their children vaccinated or not. And of course, from where I sit and what understanding I have is that I believe that that choice must be something that people must be allowed to of course, exercise. Given the fact that it is better to be vaccinated, is something that must be kept in mind.
Dr. Imran Keeka, Jazakallah so much for your insights on this issue. Keep us in your du'as, and Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And Jazakallah for the opportunity, and greetings to the listeners.
Dr. Imran Keeka talking to us about a normal school timetable for 2022. But of course, they will be eyeing the rising or dropping COVID-19 cases. He is the DA KZN spokesperson for education. 809 exactly, right here on Salam Media.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining